Hello, welcome to this Wednesday's Sofa series. Looks like we've got still a few people who are just logging on, so we're going to just wait a few minutes, but I did want to welcome you. As some of you may know, the last Wednesday every month is UFCW's Sofa series, and each month we have an expert on a particular topic, something that we hope that you folks are interested in. And it looks like we've got most people logged on now, so I think we can get started. As you can see, there is someone joining me right now. Today, we're going to be talking about making a budget. And some people, eyes glass over as soon as you say that. But we're going to break it down. Well, I'm not going to. Our special guest is going to. Millie is here from SEED Winnipeg. For those who you don't recognize that name, SEED Winnipeg stands for Supporting Employment and Economic Development. You folks do a lot of work to help people who might be low income find the supports that they need. But I'm thinking, Millie, that this is probably not a bad lesson for anybody, whatever their income is to have a budget. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
You're welcome. I've been looking forward to it. Happy to be here.
Excellent. I'm going to turn things over to you, Millie, and I'm sure you've got lots to share with us, and we'll have some questions for you at the end. Folks, if you want to ask some questions, if you're watching us on Facebook, you can just type up your questions right at the bottom. If you're watching us on Zoom, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A. You can type them in there, and I'll be looking at them, and we'll get to them at the end of the show. So, Millie, take it away.
Thank you so much, Erin. And it's funny that you had mentioned in the introduction that anyone at any income level would appreciate this information. And I hope you appreciate my PowerPoint where making a budget can feel like a whirlwind and sort of chaotic. Don't know where to begin. Sometimes things work smoothly, some things there's life shocks, but ultimately I'm here to share with you some how to prep for a budget, how to create one, what are the different types or parts of a budget, and some sort of afterthoughts where you can reflect and think about how to apply in your personal lives. And so there's a lot to cover in the next hour, but I hope you do take away some tips and some possible toolkits or tools or resources that can help you manage your money. So again, my name is Millie. I'm one of the managers of the asset building programs, and I'm happy to be here. There you go. So before we dive into what people believe is budgeting in terms of number crunching and deciding, sort of documenting or categorizing things, it's actually a little bit more of a deeper process than people may see on the surface. And that's why I have this picture of the reflection from the two here. They're adorable. But before you begin any budgeting or money management, often I recommend participants to really think and reflect on the needs and wants in your lives. So quick definition here in terms of needs, there are things that are necessary for us to live. That would be shelter, food, clothing, water, and health-related needs. And then if you have a want in your life, those are things that are not necessary, but we enjoy having. Entertainment, special foods, certain brand clothing, travel, entertainment. So what you'll find though is budgeting isn't about restricting yourself from the wants in your lives. What I'd like everyone to try and do and accomplish is find the balance between the two. Often people come to me in classes and say, Millie, I just don't know why I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Why do I feel so behind? And so I'm there to not judge or tell them this is what you should be doing with your money, but to help them be more aware of where their money is going and help them balance the two together. So as we go along the PowerPoint presentation today, think about some of those needs and wants that you have in your life and how you can balance those two. So as well, when you're thinking about your needs and wants, there's a number of influences that impact your money choices. And I'm going to walk you through this because budgeting is quite challenging and we're up against a lot. And I wanted to give everyone credit for trying to make it work in their lives. But it's good to be aware of the influences of our money so that when you are at a crossroads or if you're thinking about how to go a certain way, these influences is what I want you to reflect on. So the first one is values. These are ways of being and thinking that are important to us, whether that is your family, your children are your priority. It could be your culture, and how you use your money to support cultural occasions or ceremonies. It's health. We all know that health this year was definitely a priority, and we all had to pivot and work through changing our working environments, investing in masks, sanitizer, and doing different practices to make sure that our health was intact. Our relationships can impact the way we spend our money, whether you're dating, whether you're breaking up, whether it's friendship. Those relationships and connections can impact you. And the type of work that you have, whether it's being at home now with social distancing, or if you work in group settings, working externally, all of that can definitely influence whether you have to travel or you can stay indoors. And another value that's come up lately is environmental. So a lot in terms of reducing, reusing, recycling. So making conscious decisions about how money is spent when it comes to the impact of the earth. So those are a few examples of values. And then this one people like to talk about the most, especially our young folks, but the influence of peers, or otherwise known as peer pressure. So I get a lot of youth or younger adults saying, it's just, why is it that I plan to stay indoors for the weekend? I have every intention to not spend any money this weekend, but a phone call happens and they say, come on, let's go for a drive. And then $200 later, you've spent some unexpected expenses. So it's just interesting to navigate some relationships, and not just peers, but partners in general, even children, about even mother's guilt. I have that quite a bit, but understanding where those feelings are coming from and having the ability to say no at times. We are often thinking about convenience and making other people happy, but at the end of the day, money management and your budget is about making you sustainable and balancing your needs and wants. So practicing the word no in a effective way and keeping healthy relationships is another critical point. Habits. I'm bad for this myself. I think about myself in my 20s versus now as a mother of 3 boys. It's interesting how habits change. But I put up here is coffee. That seems to be a regular expense for a lot of habitual coffee drinkers, or certain brands when you go shopping, eating out, or entertainment expenses, sporting events and such. So, or even lottery tickets can be habitual. So understanding the balancing act between the enjoyment of coffee, but looking at your budget and saying, does it make sense that I allocate $70 worth of my money to coffee? Or could I invest that in other means where I can still enjoy some coffee, but save $35 of it a month if I decided to do something else, whether that's making coffee at home, taking a different direction to work. So you sort of give yourself safe boundaries and pass that drive-through. There are certain behavioral changes that you can make so that you can sort of remove yourself from those habitual moments. Feelings. Now, I'm a cat lover, so that's why you see the cats up here, but I hope you see the different emotions, whether that's sad, content, or angry. The question or the statement I have here for you is how you feel at the time of purchase, or how the thing you buy will make you feel. So it's incredibly powerful that the way that we feel, the emotions that we face, can impact our money choices. Often coined as retail therapy, you could either be celebrating an achievement and you're out there, I deserve this, and you end up buying something that you didn't plan for, or you may be sad. There might be something, a breakdown in relationship, and for me, it was ice cream. So you end up indulging in something that you shouldn't have, but it was something that I needed at the time to cope. Understanding that feelings can get in the way, the next time you feel celebratory or sad, you may want to stop and think for a moment to go, I don't want to spend that much on myself. I'll regret it afterwards. So getting in tune of what happens and being aware of your feelings when you're shopping. Time of life, whether you're retired, whether you're just having a baby or going through education, where you're at in your timeline is impactful and actually is a direct impact to your money choices. So whether you're saving for retirement once you get a career, all those expenses when you have a new family, and as students, we know how hard it is for education and jobs and even paying off those student loans. So all of those influences are definitely going to impact the way you spend. Advertising. And so advertisements is the number one, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And I've been more aware of it this past year with COVID because of how isolated or how much more dependent we were with technology. So whether it was on your phone or internet or radio or news or anything, it was connected to you. I see a lot of people just looking at their phones and being connected, right, online. And it's bombarded with advertising, the pressures of social media when it comes to how you dress, what you should be wearing, what you should be using, what type of parent you should be with the software to educate your children. I'm sure some of us might have those COVID purchases that we thought, why did I make that purchase? Oh, right. I had a little bit extra time after midnight surfing the internet. And so as you can see, there are so many influences to our money choices. No wonder budgeting can be challenging. And so for a moment for all of you, I want you to think, wow, we're up against a lot. And so I'm hoping this moment that we have together will help you realize that is interesting when I'm feeling sad or angry or upset, or when I'm on my phone and I happen to land on a certain advertisement for 30 seconds, then all of a sudden all those emails and alerts happen because they're smartphones. Be aware of those influences so that you can make informed choices and stick to a budget. What happens then when you dive deeper into your needs and wants? Well, it's about prioritization or priority setting. And so my comment here is needs and wants, right? So list them out. What do you need monthly? And what do you need for yourself to be happy? Now, you deserve something to make yourself content. You deserve, you're working hard, you're balancing life, being a parent in this time of challenges that we face. You deserve something. So making sure that you balance that. Household dynamic. Now, this is really important because often people just automatically assume you're on it on your own. And you're not, whether you're a single parent or a family, or you have roommates that you live with, or just friends in general that you support, or cousins, or whatever your household dynamic is. You need to communicate. You need to have a really good understanding of who covers expenses or share the same goals when it comes to finances. So I really encourage talking to each other and planning together, particularly with children. I am a single parent myself, and ultimately as much as I want my children to be happy, and that guilt factor, mom guilt is so real, I start to educate them in terms of how much we have for groceries, how much we have for entertainment, how much we have for going out, eating out, that kind of thing, or even birthday celebrations. And so it feels better when I go out there and I say, we can't eat out this week. We've actually gotten a little bit over in our grocery bill, and the children are fine. And we find alternate ways. And often, I hope I'm not alone in this, where we had to be quite creative this past year to enjoy each other's company in different households. So enjoying simple living. So simple living strategies. And I wish there was an interaction here that I could most likely learn from all of you in terms of how you adapted and became resilient over the past year. So I'll share with you what I did mostly, and it is enjoying the outdoors. Ultimately, it was more walks with the family. It was enjoying the playgrounds when we could. It was hikes around Manitoba's provincial parks, even just going for a drive and enjoying each other's company and listening to music. And then we did get into some streaming, some entertainment. So there was some negotiations of which streaming app we would all enjoy, but we couldn't do all of them, right? So simple living, not crossword, but board games and not crossword, what am I trying to think here? Jigsaw puzzles, that's it. And so we completed a few of those, which were selling like hotcakes. They were out of stock for a while there. But simple living strategies. And I think COVID definitely put that into perspective, knowing that we're all, we were in a fast-paced environment, and now it's time to slow down and really enjoy what really matters, our health and our families and friends. All right, so we're moving on to the next phase of budgeting. So putting that all into perspective, that's sort of a mental psychology check-in, right? So needs and wants and priority setting. Now there's a little bit of work here. It's called money management because you need to manage it. There is some skill set here where you have to be aware of your income, your expenses, your liabilities, and your assets. So I'm just going to quickly define these for you. Income is money coming in, right? So that's wages, income tax, benefits, pension. What else is there? It could be EI, it could be EIA. Any form of money coming in is income. Expenses. Now I want you to think monthly, because that's how my brain works, and it's the most manageable in terms of time frame. So monthly expenses could be rent, your mortgage payment, your utilities, transportation, your maintenance for your car, perhaps insurance. It could be your groceries, your eating out, your entertainment every month. It could be childcare. So things, monthly expenses, when you have to start gathering, right? So income, expenses. Then you have to look at some of the bigger pictures. Do you have liabilities, which is money that you would potentially owe, are currently owing? That is credit card payments or debt, loan debt, any car payments, any car loans. It could be your cell phone contract, right? Those are liabilities. It could be your house as well, so any land or property. And then you have assets. And assets are things of value, a monetary value, in this context. So assets would be having an income, so payroll, but it could also be physical things like a car, a home, or cold hard cash. You have savings and investments for yourselves, for you, or RESPs for your children. So assets are things of value in some sort of investment for yourself. Okay. So how do we gather that information? Record keeping. So one thing before I proceed about record keeping is, I'm curious how many of you there are ostriches. And what I mean by that, and totally safe environment here, is, are you one that likes to put your head in the sand? Because it is hard to do this, you know, to really pay attention, and can be overwhelming at times. So you just sort of hide in the sand. And if you can own that and be aware of it, great. But I would encourage you to stick your head out of the sand and start looking at ways of gathering that information in a healthy way. And what those are, we currently have banking apps that are out there that sort of do it for you. If you use your debit card or your credit card, you can actually see charts and graphs and where your money is going every time you use your card. Or you can use a budget planner. It could be just like a notebook or a calendar planner where you've indicated when bills are due, when your income comes in, and you can document everything, whether you've eaten out or you spent a little bit too much on a pair of shoes that day. That's where you would document all of your income and expenses. And for first-time budgeters, I probably would recommend the pen to paper, and that would be the budget planner. And the reason why I say that, I'm very technical, or I like technology. I myself have gone to Excel, Microsoft Excel, and other, I'd say, apps to help me budget. But primarily for me to really set a behavior and gather my information, it was pen to paper. It was the notebook. And there was something more accountable when you were taking that receipt or reflecting on what did I eat today and how much did I spend, and writing it down. It was more impactful than seeing it on a statement. I kid you not. And I hope some of you will agree with me, because there's that responsibility and aha moment of, goodness, I spent $75 on coffee this month. How could that be? And so when you have that extra step, that physical step, the accountability comes up and you're like, okay, now I'm motivated to do something here. I mentioned Excel. So yes, I love Excel. You can create yourself some tabs, income, expense, and start listing things off on a monthly basis. I love that. Or there is a shoebox method, and that, you know, some people really love that. And but I caution you, because I know people who have shoe boxes and they stick their receipts in and never look at them again. So use a method that is realistic to stick to, one that's really effective for you. And so for me, again, it was the pen to paper. But eventually, when I started to have that behavioral change and it was more routine practice, I ended up going through to Excel and online applications. And so I carry my budget with me on my phone everywhere. And I'm not actually pulling my phone out and saying, I'm spending $10 here at the gas station, but I can tell you that every day I'm looking at my budget and documenting, maybe as a summary, or within the next 2 or 3 days, I'll document and say, oh, wow, how much did I spend there? The heightened awareness is part of management. And if you don't do this part, how are you going to gather the data you need to create that budget? So the most important, I mean, they're all important here, but please, if you want to do an effective budgeting session with yourself, you have to gather that information. And you can test yourself by over a week, you know, see if you could track your income and expenses over a week, then push it over for 2 weeks, and hopefully you start doing that over a month. And after you do it for a year, it's so interesting to see the ebbs and flows with your budget, because there are seasonal impacts, there are special occasions that happen. You'd be surprised that February, where Valentine's Day happens, or Christmas or holiday season, how expenses go up. For me, it's September, back to school, or when winter hits and our hydro bills go up. So it could be a number of things. And when people don't understand the flow of money, then how do you prepare for it? Okay. Another really critical part is what we call forgotten money. So the question I have for you is, what are some of those things you buy on a regular basis that you don't even give a second thought? Budgeting is a plan for your money, and often we're tapping and we're buying things without even planning for it or thinking about it. And some of those items are coffee. I've heard my participants say cigarettes. I've often even eating out and drinking, maybe those lottery tickets, going out, or sporting events and so forth, or even online shopping. That's another one. Most recently in COVID is all of those online shopping opportunities to bid and to buy these packages. If you should really truly think about it and look at your information on a weekly basis, if someone buys coffee every day, and I want you to think about this, I need my calculator to bring this up here. If you think about what's a large double, I should know this. I think it's $2.50 times 5. So 5 days a week if I'm going to work. That's $10.75 times 4 weeks in a month. That's $43. $43 times 12 months is $516 a year towards coffee. And remember, that's a conservative total. I said I bought, in that calculation, 1 coffee a day. I probably have days where I buy a coffee and a muffin, or coffee and a bagel, or maybe it's been a really hard day and I buy 2 coffees, or I end up being generous and buy coffees for the office friends. Once you start gathering that, you're like, wow, $500 a year, or potentially double that, $1,000 towards coffee, could potentially be going into a new car, going into a savings for a vacation, or paying down that debt that you want to get rid of from the holiday season. So reflect on some of those things that you kind of buy naturally without even thinking, and see. I would love for you to calculate what that number is on a yearly basis. Okay, going back. Oh, here we go. So making a budget. As mentioned, it's a plan for your money. And these are the 3 questions I want you to think about when you start to create that budget. Number 1, how much money do you think you will earn this month? You need to know your income. Number 2, how much money do you think you will need for expenses? Everything from your household expenses to food expenses to entertainment, even hygiene expense, haircuts and such, or even your fur babies if you have pets out there. And third, how much money do you think you can save? And often I get challenged by this. They're like, Millie, why is that important? Well, that's what money management is about. Part of the reason why this is so important to budget is that we are prepared for those unexpected expenses, that we are saving for the goals that we have in our lives. Without a savings in mind, it would be pretty hard to be motivated or be ready when those life shocks happen. And often it's those life shocks that put us into very difficult situations. And so, or I can put it this way, have there been times in your lives when you thought, geez, I wish I had a little bit of a rainy day fund, or if only I had this saved up that I could cover an emergency situation? That's what money management is all about, to help us live our lives, but be prepared for those unexpected times. And if there's one guarantee in life, we know that it's not as smooth sailing as we want it to be. So we should be prepared. Okay. So what are the parts of the budget that we need to reflect on? I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's really important to remember this is documenting all of your income over a monthly time frame. I want to dig a little bit deeper about what expenses are. So just a quick breakdown. There are 3 different types. Okay. There are fixed expenses. Those are the amounts that stay the same month to month to month. And that could be rent for a moment in time before they raise it a buck or two. Or it could be your utility bills. Hopefully you stay within your package or your time, your bundled package. So that's what you pay for every month. Or you can have variable expenses, things that fluctuate month to month. So either that's the way you spend on groceries. It could be your utilities, right? Hydro. In the summer months, you may not have needed your electricity as much as you would in the winter months. Or your water might have been more higher if you were using a sprinkler system or gardening. It might have been higher than your winter months. So those are variable expenses. Irregular are those ones that we know will happen, but don't happen every month. So whether that's birthdays, special occasions, school field trips, family vacations, car repairs. What else is there? I'm just trying to think of other scenarios. Oh, if you're a bridesmaid to a wedding, now you have to participate and buy that dress you'll never wear again. Those irregular expenses can add up. And so that needs to be budgeted for your money and for future. Then you need actual or estimated amounts, and that links back to gathering information. So having that notebook or having that app or Excel spreadsheets, documenting what actually happened in January, February, March, and so on, having those actual or estimated amounts can help you plan for the next. So here's some tools. I'm going to share and walk you through what's called the budget planner, and it's right off of our federal website, the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. I'm quite pleased with it. Actually, it's very user-friendly, it's very detailed, and everyone can access it free of charge. And so I'd like to take a moment to sort of give you a tour, and then even just talk briefly about these other items, which I already have. So you can use a calendar, a pen to paper opportunity, or the Excel spreadsheet, but I'd like to share with you an interactive tool online. So let me just ensure I have my screen sharing. I hope you see the Government of Canada website. Can anyone confirm for me? Let's see here.
I think that's what we're looking at, Millie.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Erin. All right, so this is the budget planner. And right in bold there, right in the middle, you can start.
Oh, wait, no, we are actually still looking at your PowerPoint. So if you can stop sharing and start again, we'll have it.
Super. Thank you. How's that, Erin?
That's definitely it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the Government of Canada website. It's called the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. Our tax dollars go to this, people. Let's use it. So this is the budget planner. And here, right in bold, start my budget. So I'm going to click on that for everybody. And it gets you started into some questions about your budget. Oh, here we go. So what I'm going to do now is quickly show you as income. It goes right into, do I get paid every 2 weeks, daily, weekly, semi-monthly? A lot of options here. Let's say I don't tell my secret. So let's just pretend Millie gets $1,500 every 2 weeks. And then we have, what else is there? Child benefits. So I have my kids and I get about $1,200 perhaps every month. And then savings. Do I have anything right now? Do I have a savings account? I perhaps do have an RSP that I'm contributing $50 to monthly. I have an RSP that I'm actually contributing bi-weekly for my children. So every 2 weeks, I'm putting in $50. And then you continue on, whether car purchase, income tax, and now we go into expenses. Do I have any debt to pay for? Here we go. So any housing debt. So either it's a mortgage. I'm trying to see how I can make this bigger because now I can see how it's difficult to see here. I wonder. My screen is too small, unfortunately, but here we go. I'll keep going. So housing and communications. Let's see here. So mortgage payment. Let's say I have monthly and I pay $1,200 a month there for my mortgage. Or property taxes and home insurance. I pay monthly. Let's say that's about $100 a month. Okay, and so we keep going. And I'd like to show you other categories here: electricity, heating, communications. So here you can see how even your Wi-Fi, your internet, your phone, or even bundled packages. You have your food expenses, either groceries or eating out, all types of insurance, whether that's life or transportation, your gas, childcare, education, recreation, you name it. This budget planner has it all. Whether it's medical expenses, your pets and your banking fees that often you forget to document. It could be the gifts and donations you have annually. What happens then is it calculates everything for me in terms of my total income and outgoing. I see what happened here. I was actually doing a demonstration sort of prepping for this, and it's captured a few of my examples on the bottom. Once you input all that information, what's brilliant about this website is that it gives you a summary. In green, it says you have money left. And so I could potentially save $158 more. Or it gives me tips, like housing is good. It's within average of all the Canadians. And it then gives you some, hold up, take a look. Your food and insurance shows 0. So it doesn't believe me that I didn't spend any money on food. So it's quite smart, and it can give you charts and graphs to see where your money is going. So really good awareness. And then if you continue, it has suggestions about a financial goal calculator, how to set up an emergency fund, or if you wanted to start thinking about retirement. And then, of course, we love emojis and badges. It's saying you've earned, we've got 3 badges here for taking care of your finances if you like that positive reinforcement. But what's wonderful too here is that you can export this into an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to open it up for you as it downloads here. Great. Okay. And I hope you can see it, Erin. If you could verbally tell me you can see the Excel spreadsheet.
No, we can't. I think you have to stop your share again and start it again.
Oh, dear. There you go.
Yes, you can see. It looks like you're on a spreadsheet with some pie charts and What's the
Excellent. Yeah, so all of that information that you submitted on that online budget planner is then converted into an Excel spreadsheet that you can edit as you please. And so here, if, for instance, you end up changing jobs, you can change your income, or if you end up seeing different child benefits come through because it's a new tax year, you can change that. It's editable or editable, and you can look at it anytime on your laptop or cell phone, right? So it's just really interactive and personable, or you can personalize it. Okay, so that is one that I would highly encourage you to take a look at because it's really user-friendly and very detailed. So you'll get some accurate results for future planning. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now and clear that up for a minute here. How am I doing for time? Oh, I'm doing okay. Excellent. So I believe there is a question and answer period possibly, so I'm looking forward to it. Actually, oh my goodness, I am at my last slide. Let's see here. Yeah,
That's
so
okay.
yeah, just the one other piece here is those irregular expenses that I had mentioned earlier. That's the number one piece of information I want people to be more aware of is how gifts and utilities and school expenses, special occasions, those car maintenance fees can add up quite quickly. And that's the reason why budgeting is so important, is so that we don't feel so stretched when those things happen. So when people think, I'm fine, I know where my money's going, it's these moments, it's these irregular expenses that can really cause you to go into a spiral.
It was kind of shocking when you did the numbers of a Tim Hortons double. That was unbelievable how quickly that can add up, because when you're going there, you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to Starbucks, I'm just going to Tim Hortons.
Yeah, and can you imagine for those Starbucks fans, those drinks are what, $5 on average? And if
At
you
least,
calculate that, that's an easy double from the Tim Hortons drive-thru. So there you go. Thank you so much, Erin, for having me.
I do have some questions for you from the audience, so I'm going to get to those right away. I had a little interesting thing when you were talking about needs and wants, and this was actually my own observation, is that you still talked about having some wants. You can't just have none of those things. And I was thinking how much a budget can be like a diet, where you can be like, that's it, I'm going to be completely strict, I'm never going to spend any money, or a diet where you're never going to eat sugar again, I'm going to eat nothing but healthy foods. And that's not sustainable. So you really do have to find that balance if you can. So here's a good question. And I think you talked about mom guilt. I certainly know what that is as well. And I think that that's something that sometimes our audience can understand. So the question is, I'm good at sticking at a budget for myself, but it's really hard to say no to my kids. So what do you do about that? How do you feel like you're being a good mom, but you're saying no all the time?
Yeah. Okay. So there's two ways to approach this. One, you can have that honest conversation with your children and have them involved in the money management, whether that's identifying some of your money that can go towards children's entertainment or fun activities, and letting them know this is how much we can allot to this, and then letting them be aware. Oh, so it costs us about $25 to go to the Y, or we can go for free at Assiniboine Park, or go to a splash pad for free. So it's starting to raise that awareness about $25, or we can go here for free. And it's amazing how much they absorb when you start talking about the differences. They are quite smart. I remember having these conversations in grocery stores where they have all those candy and all the stuff that you want at the checkout. And I say, hey, sweetheart, look at this, right? So if you look at this chocolate bar and it's $2.50, and then we wait for Halloween, where it lasts for weeks and months, they're like, oh, interesting, we could save that money for a game or something that we want for Christmas. Putting things into perspective there really helps, having those conversations. Another way, if you're not ready to have those conversations, is then truly honestly know yourself. If you're going to say yes to them anyway, then start budgeting for that, right? So under one of those categories is, say, for kids. and honestly have that pattern of $10 every paycheck or $50 every, whatever is realistic for you, have it aside so that you are ready for those moments that you know is going to happen anyway.
Do you think that it helps for kids to have an allowance? Is that a good way for them to learn to budget?
It is definitely. So when you do speak of an allowance and putting work towards reward, it does, I've seen a lot of benefits to that in terms of communication and understanding nothing's just free. So putting a lot of value in that. However, it has to be consistent with all of your children. That's number one. So it's one thing I've seen parents struggle is I forget, and then there could be some internal conflict there. But to remain consistent and realistic. I'm not going to judge, and this is an I statement. So for the fairy, the tooth fairy, for instance, when my children were young, it was mostly quarters and loonies. I have friends of mine that put $5 bills.
You mean the tooth fairy? The tooth fairy
Yeah,
put those $5 bills. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember those conversations when my kids were little, is how come the tooth fairy gives more at so-and-so's house than they do at our house?
Yeah, exactly. So it's those hard but interesting conversations that start to really make impactful impressions. Yeah.
That is one of the weaknesses, is always your kids saying, everybody has one, I want one. That can be
And at the
difficult
end
for
of
sure.
the day, I have to say that no matter how much we spend on our kids, I think if we really look at it deeper, they just love us being around and having time together.
Certainly, for sure, when they're younger. I think my kids are grown now, and the pressure when you have teenagers and they have like specific labels of things that they want, that becomes tough sometimes. So if you can plant those seeds early on budgeting, then maybe it's easier to have that conversation by the time they're 15 or 16. I have a couple of more questions and we've got lots of time. I don't know if there's an answer to this one, but it is interesting. Is there a ratio that you should use for wants versus needs? So I think that what the person is saying is that there's always that ratio. We saw it in the website that you showed us of where your housing budget, I think it said it should be around 35% of your income, something like
30%.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a ratio of wants versus needs, or is that different for everyone?
It's different for everyone. It truly is, right? Because everyone's wants are different. So it's hard to say. But here's some tips there for you. What's a realistic piece is when you do get paid, for me, it's biweekly, setting aside that 30% for savings, and then having perhaps 10% of that 30 for myself, and then let that build up. Another way of sort of creating your wants or feeling satisfaction when you purchase something is probably saying no to yourself when you're tempted to buy something right off the hop, right? So my weakness is wallets. For some reason, I just love having wallets, and I don't need a wallet. I have tons of them at home. But so now I've actually trained myself. If I see a wallet that I want, I actually now say no. But if I'm still thinking about it in 2 months or 2 weeks, sorry, I'm now saving for it. I've got time to save for it. And it feels so much, the gratification is better when I'm not in a pinch to set like that one expense that I didn't plan for. So that would be my recommendation, is to say no at first, but plan for it, and then it'll feel good to buy it.
So how often do you get to that 2 weeks? And I think that's probably a nice timeline. In 2 weeks, I have to wait 2 weeks for this. How often do you get to that 2 weeks and then you're like, I don't really want it anymore? Does that happen?
90% of the time, Erin.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's amazing because it is, remember the influences of our money at the beginning of the webinar was that your feelings, the people around you, what's happening, maybe you saw something in the news, it all impacts the way that you make decisions. And so what you were feeling that day when you saw the pair of shoes, it's gone after 2 weeks, and you've saved yourself $80.
That's true. I find for myself, it's often like it's the rewards that I'm going to give myself, like, oh, I went to the dentist and I had to get a filling and it was really uncomfortable. So I should get to go have a smoothie now. That's my reward. Like that can be a really easy thing to get into the habit of finding a reason to reward yourself. I got up this morning and brushed my teeth, so therefore I deserve it. There's another question here that's sort of on the same in the same topic of needs, and I think that's because that is a really tough one. Is trying to balance your needs and your wants is one of the most difficult things. So this is an interesting take. Are things that help your mental health, would those be needs? So yeah, you go to Tim Hortons every day, but you're a busy mom, and that's your one time when you're kind of relaxed and take care of yourself, and it's a treat for you. Is
Yeah,
sometimes that?
absolutely. Absolutely. I can reflect on some participants in former classes where there was an argument about makeup, believe it or not. So this participant really needed makeup to feel good about herself and leave her home. Whereas other participants said, you're beautiful inside and out, you don't need makeup. So there was this conflict about that, but it's your decision. This is so personal. You can't, I can say it's a want, but you can decide it's a need, and that's okay. That's absolutely 100% fine. And another thing about, I think I'm going to link this back to the coffee expenses. When you end up depriving yourself of something that sort of fills that emotion of having fun with social ties, or the comfort of having that coffee because it's part of your routine, when you remove that, it's like cheating. You'll end up overcompensating and spending more somewhere else. So when you make these, when you make these changes, make these changes with a plan that is realistic and manageable. So is it then, okay, so you're not going to get Tim's, but is there a coffee at the office that you might enjoy? Give it a shot. You never know. So that you might actually enjoy what your employer has given. Or is it the different route to work, as mentioned earlier? But anyway, so just be mindful that if you are removing those habitual habits, that you have to come up with a plan that works for you, and not that will, cause more expenses.
Well, and that deprivation as well, right? You have to be careful with both of those.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm thinking that one of the ways to track whether it's a need that does help your mental health, or if it's just an excuse to buy something, is you talked about tracking your actual spending and tracking that, whether it's every couple of days or every month or however it is that you look at that. That's probably going to give you a signal of, wait a second, like my mental health coffee, and there's my mental health pair of shoes that I bought, and it gives you a better picture of that.
Yeah.
Somebody had a little bit more technical question, but I think it probably applies to a lot of people. They're asking, how do you manage the child tax benefit? Should you put it into your child savings? Should you use it to pay for things that your kid just wants? Is that maybe where you spend your guilt money or your parent reward money? Should it go into the RESP? Do you have suggestions of what you should do with that child tax benefit?
That is a very personal question, because it is based on your values as a parent. But if you're asking for my experience with Canada Child Benefit, so this is another I statement. It's not something that I think everyone should do, but primarily for me as a single parent, right? I do use some of that funds to go towards utilities if needed, or their school supplies. That's pending. Actually, I need to get that done ASAP. And then a portion of that, 50% is going to their RESP or RDSPs. I have children with disabilities. So putting that towards that for their future, 50%, and then 50% for Christmas, birthdays, and even that hotel stay for the swimming pool on their birthday, for instance. Yeah.
But so, it's really hard to say. It's hard to say what because for some people they might need to use it for a lot of their needs. They might need to put that money towards their grocery bill and maybe even towards their rent. Whereas for others, they might be able to put that aside for extra things. So
exactly. So it's not something that there's no magic answer for this one. It is up to your personal budget within your family.
So do that budget, figure out where you need to be putting money regularly. And maybe when you do your budget and notice where you're spending, maybe you'll have some extra money to put into some of those things.
Yeah, and I can't stress it enough, Erin. Every single conversation we've had so far, every question, the most important step is gathering that information. So I cannot stress that enough, is you need to do the work in being aware of your income and expenses, where it's going. Because if you don't do that, Unfortunately, you're not setting up yourself up for an effective budget. So you have to gather and track, do your record keeping.
And that's a bit where that ostrich thing comes in that you were talking about, is that when you actually pull up, whether it's your bank statement or you're, keeping a notebook and writing down every time you use your debit card, there is a bit of a like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see what I did. I budgeted $100 for groceries, but the last 3 weeks I've spent $130 every single week on groceries or whatever it is. It can be a little bit hard. Somebody has a question that I think is a really important one, and I find that for myself it's difficult too, is that how do you plan for the things you can't plan for? So you're putting money away for your kids, and you're putting some money away maybe for a vacation, or you're planning for Christmas, and then your hot water tank dies. Or you suddenly are supposed to have a new roof, or you need to move, and so your rent is all of a sudden going to be a lot more. How do you plan for things you can't plan for?
Well, you can't plan because, we know it's unpredictable, but we can plan that they will happen, right? So it's that emergency savings fund that you can set aside. And what I do is I do that roundup for spare change. So you're seeing that somewhere, whether it's, I don't know, I've seen that in drive-thru or even banking apps, right? So you can set up automatic deposits or auto transfers from your check or your direct pay into a hidden savings account. So you could do that. You can set up with your financial institution and just have that as a natural automatic thing that you don't even notice is coming out of your account.
So that's like you go to the store and you buy something and it's $11.30 and it rounds it up into 12.
Yeah, or it rounds it up to the nearest 15. You can set it up in different increments so that it just automatically goes into your emergency fund.
So it might not be a whole lot of money going into your emergency fund. It might be just like pennies and quarters and dollars, but over time.
And if you think about all those times you go for coffee, let's say, and you round it up, then you're just magically putting it into your emergency fund. So, but it's also setting that new behavior. It's a lot of discipline, but it's about motivation and your goal setting. So if you have a goal to set yourself with, or getting $100 a month into a rainy day fund, that's where you start, is how much do I want to achieve over a month?
It's easier to do the goal savings. Like if you've decided, okay, we're going to go away for the weekend, our treat is going to be to stay in a hotel for the weekend. It's not as hard to save for that. You can see that, and I don't mean that in your budget. I just mean mentally you can say, okay, it's building, I know where it's going to go. But that money that's just sitting there, that's just for the just in case, that can be tough for people, especially, something like Christmas comes up and you think, well, maybe I'll just take a little bit out of that safety fund.
I had a youth participant and I thought that was brilliant. They said, Millie, I didn't want to call it emergency. Rather, I called it your future self. The name of the account motivated them to put money in. They're like, your future self will thank you for this. So I thought that was brilliant. There was a verbal or like something on their statement that said your future self. And that resonated with them. So if you name your account names in certain goals, or if there's something that can remind you on your fridge or your wall, any visuals, or if even something in your wallet that stops you from spending. I have a funny story for you. So I have what's called Train the Trainer. I deliver for service providers. I offer training to do these sessions. And I remember I told you about my wallet. This particular year, I was training and moving at the same time that I found a bucket of wallets in my closet. So I decided to hand out these wallets to the participants in my Train the Trainer session. And to this day, I have folks calling me and saying, Millie, every time I open this wallet, I think of you and I don't spend my money.
Oh, that's good. But it is concerning that you had a bucket full of wallets. You do have a wallet problem then.
I did. And I noticed it in university when I did well on an exam. Out I go to buy myself a wallet.
Yes, that's the reward one. The reward one is an easy one to fall into that habit. We're getting close to the end of the time. I just wanted to see if there was any other tools that you could recommend. You mentioned that people could go to the Financial Agency of Canada that has that budget planning that we could go to. You talked about speaking to your bank. Are there any apps that you would recommend? Are there things like that you think are good choices?
The number one website would be the FCAC, the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. It's a wealth of information once you go on there. So if you Google Financial Consumer Agency Canada, it'll take you right there. And it has everything you need in terms of saving, debt management, tools to talk to your children about money. So it's wonderful to browse and see some of the tools. Or I'm going to do a shameless plug here is SEED Winnipeg.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to share the website for folks to quickly look at it. You know, again, it's this is where I am right now. I'm at the office. So SEED Winnipeg, we have multiple financial empowerment programs where you can see me again for other classes. We have 10 weeks of classes that you can attend to learn more about money management. And then we have what's called match savings programs, where if you are eligible, every dollar you save can earn a $3 match to help you purchase something that you and your family needs. We also do tax filing all year round and benefit screening. So there might be federal benefits that you didn't know you were eligible for. Or if you just needed to talk to someone about money, if you wanted some counseling or even financial coaching, you can call SEED Winnipeg and we'll be there.
So if somebody's watching right now and they're in a difficult position and it's not really a question of budgeting their way out, that maybe they've got a lot of debt that they need to deal with, they can call you folks and you can either give them a hand or send them in the right direction?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes,
that's good to know. And the one that you talked about, the government website, that's free if people want to use that for budgeting?
100%, absolutely free. Yes.
Very good. Well, thank you, Millie. You gave us a lot to think about, and hopefully we won't be ostriching and not looking at our finances. I don't blame people if they're a little bit nervous to do the track everything, but it does sound like it's a good place to start from. I want to thank you so much for being here and encourage people to go onto your website because you've got lots of information. You guys have lots of courses and lots of ways to help people, and particularly the making sure that you're getting all the benefits that you are eligible for. There's sometimes ones that people have no idea that they could have been getting. So thank you for that. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight on a kind of not raining Wednesday. It's been raining a lot here lately. If you're watching and you're not a UFCW member, you're of course welcome to join us, but I want to show you some information how you could become a UFCW member if that's something you're interested in. We put on seminars like this for our members, but we don't mind if anybody joins us, but we do a lot of other things as well to help our members in their workplace. And if you'd like to know more about unionizing your workplace, you can contact us right there. You can go to our website, ufcw832.com, and that will give you all kinds of information on exactly what you're going to see if you join a union. And one of the things that we can talk about is that you would have improved wages, better respect on the job, increased job security, and also probably find that your job is a lot safer when you've got some people looking out for you. So thank you everybody for being here. And thank you, Millie, as well. Have a great night.